What is up, everyone? Thank you for joining for this episode number 90. Emily Patton is joining us for this episode of Light, as I would say. She was a teacher for many years and even created her own educational tutoring company called Bloom Class. To put it simply, it was after that she created and co-made the Hinter Company. Hinter Company with her husband to build cabins and rent them out to people for unique experiences. She recently started Find Your Wave, a podcast to find your wave, so check it out and check out everything Emily has to say in this episode. A deep dive, as always. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you soon.
I have a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
As I was mentioning before, you have a Clubhouse room coming up tonight about unlearning, or learning to unlearn. So one thing I wanted to start off with asking you, as you're and as people will know through this conversation, is you had to transfer kind of pursuits in a way, just like last year or the year before. But I wanted to ask you, what's one major thing you've had to unlearn recently for yourself, because that's not an easy thing to do, and it's so crucial to do so in this life.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I had to unlearn or learn to unlearn would be the fact that working well means working hard, and that the harder you work, the more successful you are. I think that it's first of all about working smart, and I think it's also it's not always about go, a fast pace. Sometimes even just slowing down is the route to success. And I would love to unpack the word success as well, because what does that even mean, right? I mean, we're raised, or at least I was raised in a society where success meant money, fame, wealth, popularity. And I think that definition has changed drastically. Success to me is growth and happiness and being at peace with myself and what I'm doing.
I love that. And what was it before?
So I was a teacher for 7 years in a typical school environment. And before, to me, success meant, sorry, is that what you mean? You mean
Yeah, exactly.
Success to me before? Yeah. To me, it meant having a lot of money, and which as a teacher, definitely I did not feel successful because you don't make a lot of money as a teacher. But that said, I found beauty in many other parts of being a teacher, like working with children and being able to have an impact on the future of our generation, which is amazing. But on another note, what was really interesting was that my needs really shifted. So I was working in an institution for so long, and unfortunately that's what it is. It often feels like an institution when you work in a school. And after a while, it wasn't enough for me. So what I needed was a different way of merging all those meanings of success together. So still feeling like I'm helping others, but also feeling like I'm creating something, not just following someone's directions, but I'm also creating my own dream, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And I think the ability to take a step back and realize that it was that at one point. I mean, for one, I have family members close to me who are in the educational scene. They are teachers, and amidst what's going on, it's extremely difficult. But even before then, I give so much kudos to teachers, because there's already an institutional way of doing things, and there's so much structure to it that it's hard to go outside the bounds of it to creatively teach students the way you want to. So for that, I can see how difficult it can be. But for someone like you, it's like a change in values to want to be more creative. I remember when doing my deep dive on you, and it's amazing how we got connected too. The fact that I saw you on Clubhouse, and then I just DM'd you. I think the world now is amazing. But like doing the research, like doing the research on you, I know the creative restrictions was a big thing or a big reason as to why you moved on. And I find the story of when you were in Ecuador so fascinating, of like the email and being real tense and like having anxiety of like having someone else control your thoughts. But I want to bring up one quote and then get into something with you. But you said to the point of balance, on that. You said balance is key in like one of your like pillars. But you said anything worth anything is worth the risk. What's worse, making a mistake or living your life as what if? And I think that's really powerful. So like, how did you go about the decision of let's take the leap and have my own creativity and build my own platform? And like, we can talk about Hinter and Bloom, but I would love for you to talk about like the actual decision-making process, because it's extremely difficult to do when you change your values like that.
Yeah, I think that I was at a place in my life a couple of years ago where a lot of things shifted all at the same time. About 3.5 years ago, I left a toxic relationship. So I bring this up because I feel it was like a first stepping stone into realizing who I had grown into, because we change. We're ever changing beings, right? We're always evolving. And I feel that so often in human nature, we get into this point where we say, okay, well, this is what I'm doing and I've always done it. So why am I going to stop? And I've already come this far, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's in a career and a job, it doesn't matter. And we get in our heads that we've invested so much energy and time, and now we must continue that for some very silly reason. So,
Yeah.
and we all do it. So when I left that relationship, it was like it started to set off something in me, realizing where, okay, I can change my mind. Just because I got this deep into something, it doesn't mean I'm stuck here forever. So that then started to trickle into my work life as well. And I ended up staying for I think even another 2 full years in my teaching career. But in those 2 years, or actually it might have been 1 year or a year and a half, but in that time, I started to really piece the puzzle pieces together and let it marinate, because these are not things you can decide like overnight. You really do have to let it marinate. Sometimes I'm an impulsive person sometimes, and I get these really drastic ideas and I sleep on it. And then I'm like, okay, maybe not, so I've learned to let it marinate. And I did, I let it marinate. It was about a year and a half after I left my toxic relationship where I realized that I wanted something else career-wise. I didn't know what yet exactly, but I knew that that wasn't for me. So I started to think about it. And again, we can dive a little deeper later, if you like, into Hinter and Bloom specifically. But Hinter did come first, and it was alongside my husband, where we already had all these dreams and ideas, but originally it was supposed to be kind of a side hustle, if you will. But the stars just started to align where he decided it was a really good time to leave his job because of kind of where the company was headed. And then I had about like 5 months left of a school year, and I started to feel like itchy, kind of like, okay, I need to get out of here. And not because it was a terrible place. It wasn't a terrible place. It was just like my time was expiring there. I felt
and in the relationship you're saying was like you were with another individual, or was it like in the workplace specifically?
No, so that was like a romantic relationship.
So that was before you and Mauricio were together.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
That was like less than a year before. We had met 10 months after I got out of this toxic relationship. I had been previously engaged to another man, and it was completely wrong for me. So I completely left that and never looked back since. I've been so grateful for that. And that's what led me then to Mauricio. And I met Mauricio before I made my career change. So it kind of, things they were domino effect, like leaving a toxic relationship so that I could then, luckily and gratefully, find my match, then ignited something in me to realize, hey, when we leave things that are toxic for us, we open up the opportunity to find something or someone that is right for us. So that is where it led to my career of saying, okay, if I leave this career, which no longer serves me in the same way that it used to, then I can then open up a path to something that makes me feel alive again and magical and creative. And so I don't know if that answered your question in a long-winded way, but I think that they are so interconnected that I had to say one to explain the other.
Yeah, exactly. No. I'm all about the depth with these conversations. Like usually I love getting, and maybe we can going forward after I say something, but I love getting people's backgrounds too to lead up until what they're doing now. Because it's all interconnected, and I love how you're bringing up like a domino that knocked over another, and it's like these themes and meta themes to realize how interconnected your life is. And it shows how, like, I love that, like, self dissection, because you need a lot of awareness to be able to see those things. But it's so true. Like, I was literally going to say, once you let go of stuff that weighs you down, the shit that literally pulls you down, it's scary. But like, once you do, it's like the world rewards the risk, you know?
It's so true. It started when I left the relationship. I felt like I didn't realize it while I was in it, but when I got out, I felt like the light in me had been dimmed for so long, and then all of a sudden it was shining again immediately. I mean, really, like from one day to the next, it was a very, very quick ignition of this light.
Yeah.
So, and then the same exact thing happened career-wise. So when I had made that change, and it was a gradual change, which was kind of interesting, because as a teacher, it's the right thing to do to finish the school year. So I made the decision in January of 2019, so 2 years ago, and I finished the school year until June 2019. So while I was in those 4 or 5 months, I was working part-time still for Hinter. I was kind of doing that when I would get home all night. I was so excited about it, but I was also fulfilling my commitment and finishing off on a good note, because I also believe you should never burn bridges. You should always fulfill your commitment that you've committed to. And so I had that transition time, which was also nice because I was able to get a taste of it before officially diving into it, which I know that kind of came with some privilege, and not everyone necessarily has that opportunity. But I think that it can be scary to take the leap. It can absolutely be scary. But I think that, like we were saying earlier, if you don't, that's scarier. That's worse, because then your whole life you can wonder, what if I would have made that change? And I think that sounds scarier to me than making the actual change.
Yeah, exactly. And were there people that were very against you doing it in that transitional phase, or were you just like, I've been through many things already, I'm just gonna block out any of the noise and just go in on what I want?
Funny enough, no one really told
That's
me
nice.
that it was a bad idea. I had some like teacher friends who kind of said, like, some of them said, "Are you sure? Like, you won't have a steady income. How do you know it's going to work?" Things like that. But most of them were like, "Oh, cool. Sounds nice." Like they were kind of interested in seeing something different. But no, I had a lot of support. And I think my life had already, like we said, my life had already started to be a little bit all over the place. And I mean that in a good way. But some might perceive it as negative, where I was like, okay, I'm here, then I'm there, then I'm with someone, then I'm not, and then I'm in this job, then I'm in this job. And that could have been perceived negatively, and who knows, maybe it was, but not to my face. But at the end of the day, I think people realized I was in a very transitional period of my life, and they let me flow through it.
Yeah, you were realigning. I mean,
Yes.
that's so crucial.
Yeah.
And one point, since we're here, is like, because this can bring so much value for people who like may be working through stuff like this, is like, how did you officially identify stuff that was dimming your own light in the relationship, which ended up being the domino to, in a way, get you to the current point you're at? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure there was little things that added up in the relationship, but like
Yeah,
maybe those things, or what was it?
that's a really good question. Definitely a complicated question and a complicated answer, which I don't even know if I can fully give it to you because it would take the whole podcast. But but
Yeah.
in short, what I could tell you is I think that sometimes when we finally actually commit to something, like in that case, an engagement, we start to weirdly settle in the sense of forever or really long-term effects, and we start to see things or people in a different light, and we start to really intake the information differently, and things that were right in front of me the whole time were more obvious to me all of a sudden. And another thing was I had actually spent some time on a trip with another couple that I'm still very close friends with now, and seeing their dynamic, I was like, you know what? I don't have that, and I want that, and I want magic. I don't just want I don't want whatever's happening here. And however late it might happen, it's better late than never. And it happened for me. And then, one thing led to another. There were some critical events that took place, and then boom, snapped out of it. And within 24 hours, I kid you not, I was a new person. And a good friend of mine, actually, that I've known since I'm 3 years old, she told me the night that it happened, she said to me, your light was dimmed, and you have such a bright light, and it was just completely dimmed. So let's get that back. And I had never thought of it that way, and until she brought it up. And I then went and took time to figure out who I was, what I wanted, what makes my light shine. And that's kind of the beginning of that self-discovery, and realizing that also like that self-love of, hey, I deserve more than this. And that can be across the board, right? That can be in your relationships, that can be in your career, in your friendships. It applies to everything.
Yeah. You know it's true when you feel it, but when a friend who knows you for your whole life says like, hey, listen, like this is it, then you know it's real. That's incredible. I mean, I give kudos to that, and the ability to like detach and understand it so well, because that's really not an easy thing. And then also to count your blessings and be like, it happened now, imagine if it happened 10 years later. Yeah, that's massive. And I will say, because I was going to bring this up too, is like when going through all like your profiles and seeing what you do with Hinter, I mean, for one, like the aesthetic is just unbelievable with stuff. We'll get into that, but like you seem with Mauricio and what you're doing, it's just like some people can flaunt their happiness, but you just seem like present in what you're doing. You know what I mean? In all your travels and like all that stuff.
That's a huge compliment. I really appreciate that, Anthony. I think that that's something I work towards every single day. And that's something that I think we're constantly learning and growing from. And I have my moments where I'll get caught up in a moment and I'm not as present.
Yeah, but you're truthful. You're truthful about it though. Like you'll put it in your caption, like you'll understand like this, I had a bad week or something.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that nobody wants perfect, and nobody is perfect, first of all. And if they seem perfect, then it's the image they're creating, which can be beautiful aesthetically, of course, but I think that it's so essential that we do reveal these sides of us, and we reveal when we have a bad day, or a bad week, or if we're just feeling off, or if we're battling something. Now, some things, of course, are too personal, but I'm not saying everyone should air all their dirty laundry on social media, but I think that there's something to say with being real, and people then relate to you more when you are.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then to get into if you're in a way of like timelining. Mauricio, he was in architecture for a while, but then you guys started doing. Or no,
Yeah.
he wasn't.
No, he was never an architect.
Oh wow.
He actually was working in the software industry for 10 years. He was the president of a company for about 3 or 4 years. And before that, he worked for a different company. And so he was more on the business sides of things. He wasn't he wasn't coding or anything like that, but he was running the company. So this was completely a passion project originally. And then the company he was working for was actually, they were selling the company, and he felt like that was the perfect opportunity to say, like, you know what? I'm just going to jump into this. Like, I'm just going to make this my full time. And it was nerve-wracking a little bit because I did the exact same thing, right? I said, like, okay, I'm going to leave my teaching job. Let's do this together.
Yeah.
Most people would say, like, okay, probably not the best for both of you to give up your reliable salaries. But we did. And we were very lucky to be in the position where it worked out well. We did test it out a little before. So we had another house, Hinter Cabin, which we kind of used as a guinea pig, and we tested it out. And when we saw the response, we said, okay, if they like this house, they're not going to know, like they're going to be so shocked when they see Hinter House when it's created, because it's just a different product. It's something that no one has seen before. Whereas Hinter Cabin, people can build similar houses. It's a prefab, and there are other similar houses like that. But Hinter House is like, it's our design.
Yeah, and you had architects build that, or was it like pre-built and you just did interior designing?
No, so we worked with architects, and how it works with Hinter is we're building different houses, essentially like different products, and the houses have different architects. So for example, we've worked with a local architect now on Hinter House, or not now, but over the last 3 years, I'd say. And our next house, which is still really not much is revealed yet about it, but we are working with architects from the UK. So we're always using different architects, renowned architect firms, to create products that are never have been seen before, especially in Quebec, I could say, and maybe even in North America.
Yeah. I was in Canada 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I went to Alberta, and then I went to like Red Deer, because we had a shoot to like for this educational related thing and for this school. But like, for one, Canada's beautiful. We went to like the big mountains, big lakes, Prado Lake, like all those. But I saw like obviously the Hinter House, and like it's absolutely beautiful. I was looking at the description of it, and I'm big into Japanese aesthetic and minimalism, and like the fact you guys incorporated that is just, I mean, it just like, it's so beautiful. It's like some of the things you see on like architect Instagram or like whatever, architect digest stuff. So I could see you guys put in a lot of effort into, and also like intentionality with like, let's have sustainable products throughout this whole place.
Yes, that's super important to us. We started out not thinking as much about sustainability. In our daily lives we did, but in our business, not necessarily as much. And we cared about using good products and things like that. But it hit us in September 2019. All of a sudden we said, okay, we're providing these wellness retreats for people. So we're helping people. That's great. We're giving people a kind of a little sanctuary to relax in. We're making money. Great. So check. But are we giving back? Are we having a social or environmental impact? And that's when we thought of, why don't we plant trees for every booking that we have? We have to take down some trees in order to build the houses, of course. And there's no way that we take down more than maximum 20, 30, right, for a house. And so we thought, no, we're not just going to give that back. we're going to go the complete other direction. We're not just looking to be carbon neutral. We're looking to be carbon negative, or like some people say, climate positive.
Yeah.
And so every time we have a booking, we plant exactly 10 trees per booking, and that's about 1,500 trees per year per house. So that means, having 2 houses, that can be 3,000 trees a year. So we're way beyond the trees we took down.
I'm like looking at trees as you say
Oh,
that.
that's so
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so it feels good. And the greatest part is that we're not just like, oh, we're planting trees. No, we know it's not us only. It's actually everyone who's staying with us, right? So by staying with us, you choose not only to stay in a beautiful space, but you're also choosing to plant those 10 trees with us. And we tell our guests that by choosing to stay with us, they're planting those trees. So it's really nice that we also empower others to feel good about the choices they're making with their money and their time.
Yeah, I've never heard of a getaway type place, or like a house or a cabin have like a social tie to it. I saw you interviewed for one of your recent IGTV series, like episode 1. You sat down with the founder of like One Tree Planted.
Yes, I actually started that about a year ago, and I had all these plans to interview all these people, but then COVID happened. So I had done episode 1, and then boom, COVID happened. I went on a trip for a month to Ecuador and then came back, and everything was shut down. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm canceling all my recordings. So I didn't end up continuing that, but one day. But yes, I sat down with Matt, the founder of One Tree Planted, and he told us so much about trees and their impact and the impact on biodiversity as well. How it's not just like, we all know that trees absorb carbon dioxide, which is not good for us, and they give us more oxygen, which is great for us. So it's a really nice exchange. That I think most people do know, but there were so many things I didn't realize. Like for instance, he told us about the orcas, how they're affected by trees. And I said, how are they affected by trees? Well, the more trees that are planted near the streams where the salmon is bred, which then leads to where the orcas are swimming and feeding, that they can feed and eat and survive. So when you have more trees, you create more runoff, which then is a better environment for the salmon to breed. And then therefore there's more salmon, which is essential for the killer whale's life because they need to feed off of them. So it's just so interesting how, like, what would trees have to do with whales, and then there is a connection. And there's so many connections with biodiversity and trees, humans and trees, jobs as well, livelihoods. They create so many jobs for people as well.
Yeah.
It's endless.
Yeah. I mean, talking about like a meta of meta themes, like you connecting dots before, I mean, you look at this stuff, it's like you realize how one small habit contributes to just like such a catastrophic or such a complex thing. At the end of the day, it's just like our small actions that add up, which is very much needed now with what everyone knows with the climate changing now. It's crucial. Yeah. But for you, Mauricio grew up in Ecuador. And where did you grow up? Were you in Canada the whole time or no?
Yeah, I grew up in Canada. I was born in Canada. My father's from Romania originally, and then grew up in Israel, and then moved to Canada. My mom, born and raised in Canada. And and then I met Mauricio, thankfully, after he had already been living in Montreal, Canada for about 14, 15 years when we met. But we just had never crossed paths. And then we merged, and we met actually over a dating app. no nice. Crazy romantic story there.
I love that. I have one of my really good friends lives in Romania.
Cool.
So actually, unbelievable place. But I was thinking of Ecuador too, because a friend and I we're going to Ecuador because we want to hike Mount Chimborazo and Cotopaxi and all these mountains.
That's his dream.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he wants to do like a 14-day trek on Cotopaxi. I was like, I'll hang out with your mom. You do that. I have
Yeah,
limits. I'm good for like a 2-day trek. But
exactly. Like I have a friend who lives there, so we'll probably stay with her. But my one friend and I like really big into hiking mountains, so we're trying to progress that. Um, maybe yeah, we're trying to go the end of this year, so we'll
oh, that's
see.
amazing. Yeah, let me know if
Yeah.
you need recommendations or anything. I mean, you have a friend there. I'm sure she'll take care of you. But I've
No.
gone horseback riding on Cotopaxi. It's beautiful.
That's yeah, that's beautiful. I did I It's so funny you say that. I have like a vision type board, and I have horses in like a distance with mountains of Chimbo or Cotopaxi. So like trying to actualize that, but I'll make sure to keep that top of mind for when I go
Yeah,
from
yeah,
you,
you'll
because
enjoy
you've
it.
been there. But I was gonna ask on the point of like travel and creating these sustainable, amazing cabins and houses. Like, what do you prioritize when doing so? Because like you've been to a lot of damn places around the world. So like, how do you like what do you look for when you do so? And what do you prioritize?
When I travel myself,
Yeah.
I always have been into, I've never been the type that wants to just stay at a 5-star hotel, put my feet up, lie on the beach all day. I mean,
Mhm.
one day like that is enough for me, honestly. I really like, I like adventure, but I also just like exploring and immersing myself in the culture of a place. So my favorite way is if I do know any locals of whatever city or country I'm visiting, I definitely like to see them, meet their friends, and really live like the
Yeah.
way they live, you know? So that's super fun. I love a good view. So I love like, doing I love hikes. I love being in nature and then getting to the top and seeing an incredible view. It's so humbling and just like slows time down. I
Mhm.
love that. And when I stay places, it's funny that since we started Hinter, I weirdly have like it's like we want to find something that is exciting because now we're creating these exciting
I
places.
was just gonna ask that. I was gonna say like, how does this tie into Hinter and like where you locate the place, where you build it, what you do, you know?
Well, yeah. So like when we stay somewhere, it can be hard because our standards now, and I don't mean standards in like like I said, like super classy 5-star hotel way. I mean it in like our standards for like a unique space are really high now. So in I don't know, we're always looking for something new and potentially we'll just end up expanding Hinter in many places. So one day we can we can stay at our own spots
Yeah.
like that. But we've stayed like in Ecuador. We obviously go often. And one time in the jungle in Mindo, we stayed in a treehouse, which was incredible. It
Mm.
was so raw. It was like, I mean, the bathroom was like a few steps down from the little main area in the tree outside. The shower was outside, everything. We stayed there only 2
It's
nights, but
incredible.
it was incredible. And last year, right before the start of COVID, we were also there, and we were all along the coast, and we stayed in these crazy places, like really simple, but really raw and gorgeous views of the ocean. So I think I really like being submersed in nature when I go somewhere.
Mm.
Um, in a city, it's a little bit different. So I look for other things. In a city, I look for some like design oriented. Okay, which hotel or property has a really cool and unique design so that my experience will be special, not just feel like four walls that I'm always like
Mm.
cookie cutter walls of a hotel room.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel that. I went to Iceland once before, and then also Costa Rica once before, and like we were immersed in nature the whole time. We only spent like one day in a more populated area, or even like Iceland, like Reykjavik of the city itself on the capital. But like experiencing everything is just like such a more profound experience, because I think with travel, it's like beautiful to get that change of perspective, but like it causes your internal dialogue to change a little bit. It's like I always say, like external travel causes some like internal travel as well.
Oh, I
It's insane.
love that. I'm like, if with your permission, I might use that.
Yeah, please
I
don't
love
don't don't corn me on that. That can definitely be passed down from other friends.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we did during the pandemic, we couldn't travel much, obviously. And we decided in September to do a little road trip just within our province of Quebec here. So we were, it was a time where things were a little bit more flexible, but we stayed within our area. But it was incredible because what we did, we have a Defender, like a Land Rover Defender, like
I see.
vintage one. And it is it was so cool because Mauricio had all these ideas like, okay, we're gonna camp on top of the Defender, like we're gonna get a rooftop tent. And I was very tentative at first. I was like, what do you mean? First of all, sometimes I get ahead of myself. Like before I go on an adventure, I get a little bit apprehensive and nervous. But once I'm there, I'm a happy camper, no pun intended. Like I'm great at adapting. So once I got there, we camped about a third of the time, not the whole time.
Mm.
We kind of ping ponged back and forth between camping and staying in places. And it was amazing. I mean, just like opening your tent and peeking out and seeing the sunrise, or seeing the ocean, or rolling into bed after making mac and cheese on an open fire. It's just like,
Exactly. It's unbelievable. I swear too, because like Iceland, we literally camped outside once. We went in a cave and like cooked our food over a fire, but in one of those like metal pots. I mean, it's just like you could say it's like roughing it sometimes, but it just adds like a whole layer of fun and experience and like insight that you never would have gained. There's something beautiful about nature. Um, yeah, I would love to ask you too, because you said before, like in ways to come to terms in certain decisions you made, you have to obviously like be somewhat present, but really be sound. Like, what are some things? Is nature, like going to nature, one of the ways in which you can like ground yourself to do so, or is there like a meditative thing? I know you read and write, but what would that be for you?
yeah, I would definitely say being in nature really helps me be in touch with myself and being in touch with my creativity. I also think that when when I slow down and I turn off a lot of devices, I disconnect and I tune in, whether that is with yoga, another workout, meditation, taking a bath, reading a book, lighting a candle, like sometimes the simplest little things. Um, it gives me that space mentally to just like go into my own flow and see what
Yeah,
I need, what I want, what speaks to me. And often as I mentioned earlier, I become so much more creative like that. And I all of a sudden, I can write more easily. I can paint. I can just like see where my energy takes me. And that is so nice because I feel that that is so essential to whatever it is for you to find those other parts of you, not just what you do for work or not just your relationships, but other parts of you that are just for you and to explore them because we become more whole. We're holistic
yeah,
beings. Like there's so much about us that I think so often we are brought up in a society that makes us feel we have to be experts at things. Like, what is your thing? And I
mm,
don't have a thing. I've realized like I am not just one thing. I am many. I am me. And there are so many pieces of this puzzle that come together. And I actually prefer it that way. I prefer being multidimensional and really playing with all those parts of me and feeling them and exploring them because then I feel more me.
mm. Yeah. It's so funny you bring that up. We just had a episode released today with Karina Popovich, number 75, but she was talking at one point about like intersectionality in terms of like being good at a couple of things. Cause for her, she's a woman and she's in the STEM field and like is an engineer and a maker. And she was kind of excluded many times. And although she's young, she's like really trying to focus on like bridging that gap for females to be an engineer, and also like someone who gets their nails painted, like, and also does some other things. So it's important, you know.
Exactly. Just be yourself. You don't have to fit a mold, just because you're an entrepreneur, for example, it doesn't mean that you can't also paint or
Yep.
be proud to take a bath with candles, you do you. And I think that, yeah, there's no right answer or right
Mhm.
mold. We're
Yeah,
all
exactly. Talking about that point, which is actually a great segue, is you have Hinter now, and you and Mauricio focus on that, but we didn't touch on it much. But Bloom Class is like an educational platform you started, so I'd love for you to like shine a light on that, and also we can discuss, because I have a friend who's creating an academic marketplace where students can collaborate based on like their strengths and weaknesses. And obviously with the change, like you were once a teacher, which I would love to see how that's connected, but like things are going digital and online. So yeah, I'll let you give you the stage for Bloom Class, and then we can dive deep.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely connected to me being an educator. And then when the pandemic started, I had still been tutoring some kids privately, even after I left being a teacher, because I still wanted that fix. I love working with children. I love education. I love helping people understand things and explaining things and making things fun and creative. So I was doing that on the side, and then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, I mean, schools were online, tutoring all of a sudden had to be online. So I started to do it, and I realized, wow, this is so much better. I don't have to sit in traffic and go like door to door, because I would sometimes do like three in one evening and drive from one part of the city to the other part of the city. And it was a lot of time, gas, patience. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden here I was like sitting in one spot, like, okay, finished one, go to the next one. I don't have to move. I can have pajamas on the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
I can, and I really actually was thriving in the virtual world. I was loving it, and I felt that I was able to adapt quickly and make it fun, and the kids were still enjoying it. So I thought about, could this be something? And Mauricio actually was probably my biggest cheerleader and said, like, why don't you make it something? And so many educators, you have a background now in from Hinter's experience. I created this knowledge of marketing because I'm in charge of all the social media and everything. So, you have the marketing side, and you can implement the love for sustainability as well by planting trees for every class. And that way you also stand out from the crowd. You're not just any other virtual education platform. So, with a small push, I got started right away, and I just made my first website I've ever done myself. I had a
Wow.
little help from Mauricio. He showed me a few of, how it works. And then I just spent hours and hours playing around with it until I was happy and built a team. And
Mm.
then I reached out to my network, and slowly but surely it expanded. We were featured in some newsletters. We were shared by some nice influencers that, I had crossed paths with, that were moms as well, and they shared it with their communities. And then over time, it's not to be cheesy, but it's bloomed. It's
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's really cool to see something that is just an idea become reality.
That's incredible. Wow. Well, I love the fact of the bootstrapness and like learning most of it on your own. Yeah, I was gonna bring up the point of like the Hinter socials, because like you've grown, you have like a nice little following, but like you have your understanding of marketing, but to do a little bit of everything. I would love to know like how you built the team, and like where you're currently at with like the amount of people you're helping on with Bloom Class itself.
With Bloom Class, so in terms of a team, we are about We're about 18 educators, but I'll be honest, they're not all completely active. Some of them are, let's say, on maternity leave, or they only want to work in the summer more because they're feeling a little overwhelmed because they're full-time teachers as well. So we don't necessarily have all of them active. I would say about 10 of them are active right now. And
Yeah,
in
because
terms
a quick point to cut in, like I have someone who's building something called Hall Pass Learning. Like she's just starting it up, but to have a double-sided marketplace like that, it's really difficult. But like you're able to establish it and like let it grow like so early on, which is actually incredible.
Thank you. Look, there's still so much room for it to grow,
Yeah.
and I definitely would love to reach a wider audience. The good news is that we really have a great retention rate. So when we have people come on board and start either private one-on-one tutoring classes, or they join an extracurricular activity, typically, no matter where they hear from us, either word of mouth or through a newsletter or social media, they do typically stick around. We have a really nice return rate. So I know that our services are doing the right things. The biggest challenge right now is acquiring new customers to join us. It kind of comes in waves, but definitely that's my focus right now. So I understand what your friend is also experiencing. It's tough, I was lucky to start with a base because I had a community of parents that I knew from my previous teaching experience. And then it kind of ripple affected outwards. Plus, because we were featured a few times on newsletters, we got some new adapters.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about your best marketing advice, and I mean, you kind of just pointed at it too in terms of like using the people within your network. But if you have any other things you wanted to mention,
with education, it's really word of mouth based. I feel because it's a very specific thing. People, it's their prized possessions is their children, right? It's like their most prized possession. So they're not going to trust just anyone. They need to have trust in you. And I know that most of our best customers ended up coming through someone who had already experienced something with us, or one of the educators at least. So I think that with this specific type of product or service, it is a very tricky thing to market. However, my best advice would be putting yourself out there. And I had a friend submit once about us to be in a newsletter, and then we were in the newsletter, and it was, if I wouldn't have had her submit us, then they wouldn't have known about us. So I think it's really about putting yourself out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That like building in public mentality, but also realizing, as another individual said that we interviewed, like everything you need and everyone you want to, or everyone you think you need, it's already within your network. So like just use what you have in a way, kind of mentality. Yeah, and I think you epitomize that as well. But on a way of actually, before I get to that too, I would love to know, because I always ask people like favorite books and favorite gifts and stuff. For you, like what's one of your favorite sustainable, because I know you just turned 32 like on the 2nd, right? Yeah, so like favorite sustainable gift you could ever get, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Or even if you, yeah, and then I want to ask about favorite book, but we'll do that one. Sustainable gift.
So sustainable gift, I would say it's an experience. I'm very experience based. I don't need a lot of products or things, and I'm actually really trying not to have as many things. That goes maybe with also the minimalism mentality of thinker that has definitely been in my life now for a few years. So I think great gifts would be an experience, whether that's like a trip or a meal of some sort, spa, or a plant is always a really cute gift too, I think, because that you're giving like life. And
I did see Mauricio has a company around there, right?
Yeah, he does actually with my best friend Steph, and they teamed up together, and
Nice.
they have a yeah, it's a potted plant delivery company. So, and the pots are actually most of the pots are made out of recycled plastic. So
Mm,
they sell them like two in one. You get a plant and a pot. You can choose your color, and there's all different ones. They have like pet friendly ones, low light, all those different things. And yeah, and then you get it delivered to you. Right now we're there. I'm not involved, but I feel like I am sometimes because I'm so close with both of them. But right now they only have it in Montreal, but they're going to be expanding soon. So
let's go. So much growth all around.
yeah, yeah, that's the goal
Yeah.
within reason, of course, because I think that growth is a finicky thing, and you have to also have kind of a cap in a sense of how big you want to grow and how far you want to go
Mm,
with any company or idea, because you also need to maintain that quality of life and preserve your success. Like we can kind of tie back to right back to the beginning.
exactly.
What is success to you? Because to me it's really like being happy, being calm, comfortable, excited. It's not just about more money, money, money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so funny you mention that because like a win can turn into a loss if you're like trying to do more than you need. And I think I just posted about something yesterday of like I'm in this mentality because in the beginning I had to get the ball rolling with Dream Big and Co. And just within any aim or pursuit someone has, it's a little bit harder in the beginning as anything is. First $10,000, first 100 customers, first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, like just all of that. So I posted about the theme of like doing less to do more, and I know you're in that same wave. But for you, like, what is your cap, or like what do you want to do with Bloom and Hinter, and like where do you want to go? Because I love asking about the bigger dreams of an individual
I
as
love
it
that
is.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll start with Bloom. With Bloom, I think that I want it to be something that can continue on. Like we said, it does like, or I don't think we said this, but I was thinking it earlier, is that this doesn't have to be a now thing only, because the virtual we discussed about how the virtual education world, it's not necessarily just a now thing. The world is changing.
Mm,
So I think that with Bloom I would really like to see it continue to grow a little bit of a wider audience, but it doesn't have to be worldwide. I'm really okay with if it just ends up being even if I just have a few hundred students and everyone's happy and we're planting trees and we have educators who are feeling like they're part of the team and balanced. I don't want to be a big company, because right now I feel we have a really great culture as well. Um, Even on an educator level, we have some evenings where we get together and we do Zoom nights where we discuss different topics, and it's really nice. We're a little community. So I do love
mm,
but I would love to reach a wider audience. That is for sure. Um,
I love that.
Here, we have a lot of ideas, a lot of dreams, and I think that it can be really exciting at times. At other times, we were just talking about it yesterday. It can also be like weirdly frustrating, um, because we get impatient because we have like so many fun ideas and we have plans. But what often happens is, things take time. Construction takes time, finalizing plans, finding plots of land. It all takes so much time. So sometimes we feel like, oh, like itchy, like we just want things to happen faster. But
Yeah.
we know that we have to be patient. And ultimately, without giving away too much, we are definitely looking to not just stay within Quebec, and not necessarily only within Canada as well. So there are definitely plans. We have outside of Quebec, we have nothing official yet, but it's in the works. Let's put it that way.
Nice. I love that. I love I resonate with being a little bit impatient sometimes because ambition's the default. So keeping oneself in check is key. But it's in a way of plugging, but also being curious, like, are there price ranges for Hinter House already? Because like I've been thinking about, I would love to have a week getaway, just like focus on no one around me, creatively editing stuff, creatively doing things. And if I were to like go to Canada and go to the Hinter House, what would the price ranges be?
So, okay, firstly, keep in mind that we're talking Canadian dollars. I'm going to give you Canadian
Mm,
dollars. So that's actually, it will be less for you. Okay. So that said, we're also fully booked until November. So that I just want to let you know.
what? That's
We're now in
incredible.
February. Yeah, we're fully booked until November. So
Nice.
there is that. We have a wait list for anyone who ends up listening and potentially wanting to stay with us. Maybe you can also include my email in the note,
Absolutely.
because then they can reach out and they can request to be on the wait list. So the prices in Canadian dollars are between 400 and 550 a night, which I believe would be around like three something, 320 to like 475 American.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Something
Nice. That's
like
yeah. That's beautiful for the for the stuff you get and the place it's in. I mean,
that.
that's
That's
like
it. It
pennies.
also,
Yeah.
there's 2 bedrooms. So
Mm.
we feel it's quite fair. You have two
Mm,
bedrooms and you can be two couples or a small family.
yeah.
Often we
That
have one couple as well, because it's still in a sense affordable enough for one couple for a special occasion. We often get that as well.
love that. Yeah, I know a lot of people would be interested, and I know I'm gonna keep that top of mind for like because I literally was looking at like Airbnb. There's houses in Oregon I was curious about, and having a group of people go there that like we have a little mastermind group. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna keep it top of mind. I'll make sure to plug all the socials. I'll put your email in the description. But if there's anything else you want to say, I'll let you do so. If there's anything else you want to share, but I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. And for anyone listening, I just really appreciated, having this chat with you, talking about what I do, but more importantly, how it can affect other people, and
Mm,
how I hope my goal here is for other people who feel that they are either in a place where they need to make a change, and maybe
mm,
their light is not shining as brightly right now, or maybe there's something that has been itching them for so long to do. And if anything I said today can ignite one step towards those goals or those dreams, then that that sounds incredible. And I'm so glad that I was here today to talk to you, because that's my goal. Even if one person makes a change
mm,
after listening to this, then that's
absolutely.
that's the dream.
I love that. Thank you so much. You're
Thank you.
amazing. Keep it up.